My name is Leah Donovan, and I never expected the world to shift under my feet because of one phone call. I was sitting in my corner office on the 32nd floor of a glass tower in downtown Chicago. The city skyline outside my window shimmered under the early evening light, cars like little stars blinking along the avenues. My assistant had gone home, and the office was mostly quiet, except for the occasional hum of the HVAC and the distant clacking of a janitor's cart. I should have felt proud I'd just secured one of the biggest investment deals of the quarter, but all I could feel was numb. Success didn't feel like success when the people who were supposed to care didn't. Then my phone rang. Leah Donovan. My voice was flat, businesslike. Leah, it's your mother. My back straightened involuntarily. I hadn't heard her voice in months. Probably over a year, actually. I braced myself for criticism or a backhanded compliment. Instead, she said, "Your father, Grayson, and I, we're planning a family cruise, 5 days. Caribbean, we'd like you and Ezra to come." I blinked. My brain stalled. Sorry, what? She repeated it as if it were the most normal thing in the world. You're inviting me and my son? Yes, we think it's time. Time for what? I wanted to ask, but the words stuck in my throat. She continued, Your sister Morgan and her fiancé will be there too. We'll be leaving from Fort Lauderdale next Friday. Just bring something light. It'll be warm. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. Leah, she said softer now. Your father's been talking about you and Ezra lately. I think he misses you. I'd forgotten what shock felt like, the kind that stuns you silent. After I hung up, I just sat there, phone in hand, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. Why now? These were the same parents who had told me word for word that I had embarrassed the family name by leaving my husband, Neil. The same ones who called Morgan the glue of the family while pretending I was a crack in the foundation. Even after the custody battle, after I won full rights to raise Ezra myself, they called me selfish. Neil came from a powerful family with deep pockets and pristine reputations. In their world, keeping up appearances meant more than keeping their grandchild safe. Now they wanted a vacation. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was manipulation. But I couldn't deny the hope that stirred in my chest. What if Ezra could have a real relationship with his grandparents, a soft place to land in a world that had already taught him too much about broken homes? That night, when I got home, Ezra was building a spaceship out of cereal boxes with our sitter Janet. "Mommy!" he shouted, running toward me. I scooped him up and kissed his forehead. "How was my little astronaut today?" "We made moon rocks," he beamed. "Hey, buddy," I said gently. "Would you want to go on a big boat with Grandma and Grandpa?" He blinked. A boat like a pirate ship. "Sort of a fancy one, and Morgan will be there too." He considered this will there be ice cream. "Probably. I'm in." I laughed. Just like that, his mind was made up. I wish mine had been that easy. The following Friday, we stood at the edge of the marina in Fort Lauderdale. I kept a tight grip on Ezra's hand as we approached the Silver Horizon, a sleek 60-foot yacht that looked like it belonged in a Bond movie. My mother. Camila stood on the deck in her white sun hat and pearls, smiling like the matriarch of a royal family. My father Grayson waved his usual stiff smile, somehow warmer than I remembered. And Morgan, she was already in full performance mode, sunglasses perched atop her flawless blonde bob, clutching a glass of something sparkly. Leah, Camila called, and Ezra. "Look at you." Grayson stepped forward, arms open. "Glad you made it." Ezra gave a shy wave. Morgan just nodded at me with her tight-lipped smile. "Hey," she said, "you look the same. And you look exactly how I imagined you would on a yacht." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. That first evening, everything felt weirdly normal. Grayson actually asked about my work. Not in a dismissive way, but with real interest. Camila helped Ezra pick out seashells along the lower deck. By the second day, I started to think maybe, just maybe, they were trying. But on the third night, everything shifted. Grayson invited me into the yacht's private study. He poured himself a drink and gestured for me to sit. "Something I need to talk to you about," he said. I sat. He looked tired, older than I remembered. "I've had some tests done," he said quietly, "and they weren't good." My throat tightened. "I have maybe a year? 2 if I'm lucky." but I've already begun making arrangements about the estate. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He continued, Morgan's been groomed for the business. But you've always had a sharp mind. I wasn't blind to that. I just handled it poorly. You and Ezra need to be taken care of. I want to name you primary heir. My pulse thudded in my ears. This isn't about money, I said slowly. Is it? No, it's about doing one thing right before I go. He looked out the porthole at the dark sea. I wanted to believe him, but something in me itched. A small, buzzing whisper in the back of my mind. This is too easy. The next morning, Morgan found me on the deck. She was all smiles. Hey, sis, she said, slipping off her sunglasses. Nice day, huh? Beautiful, I replied carefully. I saw you talking to Dad last night, she said, leaning on the rail. Everything okay? He's not well, I said. Yeah, she said slowly. He told me to. That surprised me. But then she added, he also mentioned something about changes, legal changes. There it was. The smile was gone. I'm not here to fight you, Morgan. Oh, but you always win, don't you? She snapped. Even when you lose, you find a way to take center stage. What the hell are you talking about? She leaned in closer, her voice dropped. You think this trip was about forgiveness? She hissed. This was a setup, and you walked right into it? I stood there stunned while Morgan sauntered off like she'd just dropped a casual insult at brunch. A setup. Her words clung to me like sea salt on skin, itchy, unsettling, impossible to ignore. I turned and scanned the deck. Grayson and Camila were nowhere in sight. Ezra was inside the lounge with one of the crew members drawing whales on the yacht's tablet. I watched the door until I saw him glance my way. He waved. I forced a smile. He deserved a peaceful trip, not the kind of storm brewing behind my ribs. That afternoon, Camila offered to take Ezra down to the galley to make cookies. That should have been sweet. Normal, but something about her overly cheerful tone set off an alarm in my chest. Just us, I asked. Of course, she said, smiling. Bonding time. I hesitated. I didn't want to be the paranoid mom, but I also wasn't stupid. Still, Ezra's little face was full of excitement. Can I, Mom, please? I nodded slowly. Okay, but if anything feels weird, you come find me, okay? He gave me a thumbs up and followed her down the stairs. I waited 5 minutes, then followed. I kept my steps quiet just in case I was being irrational. But when I reached the galley, I heard something that froze me. Just one more sip, Camila's voice cooed. It's a special drink, helps with seasickness. Ezra sounded hesitant, but it's bitter. I stepped in without hesitation. What's going on? Camila jumped. Ezra rushed to me immediately, clinging to my leg. I didn't drink it, Mom. It tasted weird. Camila's mask cracked for just a second. It's nothing, just cocoa. Maybe I added too much ginger. I walked over to the mug, sniffed it. It smelled wrong. No more treats, I said coldly. We're going back to our room. But Leah, now. I didn't run. I didn't scream. But inside, every instinct was howling. In the room, I locked the door and knelt down in front of Ezra. Sweetheart, are you feeling okay? Nausea, dizzy. No, I didn't drink it. I just tasted a little. It was gross. He was fine, thank God. I pulled my phone from the nightstand drawer, opened the emergency tracking app I'd secretly installed. One tap, and my location was being shared with the Coast Guard. Another tap and the audio recorder activated. I wasn't going to be the woman who disappeared without a trace. That night, I barely slept. I stuffed Ezra's waterproof jacket and a compact life vest into our bag, just in case. At sunrise, I pretended everything was fine. Today's the last stop before we turn back, Grayson said over breakfast. One last swim, maybe even dolphins. Everyone smiled except me. I hadn't touched my plate. Just peeled an orange for Ezra with shaky hands. Camila was too cheerful. Morgan kept glancing at her phone. And Grayson? He was back to being the cold strategist I remembered from childhood. Only now he was dressed like Jimmy Buffett. Suddenly Grayson stood. Look over there, dolphins. He pointed toward the edge of the ship. Ezra's eyes widened. Can we see Mom? I nodded, took his hand. As we approached the railing, Camila and Morgan flanked us, smiling silent. And then, shove? It happened so fast. 2 hands slammed into my back, and I wrapped my arms around Ezra instinctively. We went over the rail into open water. The shock of the cold hit first. Then the panic, I surfaced immediately, cradling Ezra, keeping his head above water. He sputtered, cried out, "I've got you, baby, hold on." The yacht didn't stop. No shouting, no alarm. Just silence as it drifted farther and farther away. I turned us toward the nearest floating object, a white life ring bobbing in the waves. Somehow, maybe by divine chance or dumb luck, it had been tossed in with us. I swam with everything I had, my legs kicking hard. When I reached it, I hoisted Ezra onto it and clung to the edge. "You're okay," I panted. "You're okay." He was shaking, pale but breathing. My phone, sealed in a waterproof case, was still attached to the lanyard around my neck. The screen lit up, emergency beacon, active location shared. We floated for hours. The sun rose higher. Ezra fell in and out of sleep. I kept whispering to him, kept kicking slowly to stay near the last coordinates I'd tracked. And then, a sound faint but real. Choppers. By the time the Coast Guard reached us, my arms were numb. My face burned with sun and salt, but I hadn't let go. A young officer helped me onto the rescue basket first, then hoisted Ezra gently into my arms. "You're safe now," he said. "No," I said, voice cracking. "We were pushed. I have proof." The video had kept recording. Everything. Camila Morgan. The fall my screams was there. I backed it up to the cloud while we were still airborne. At the hospital, a nurse handed me warm water. Ezra was being checked for dehydration. A detective showed up 20 minutes later. "I need a statement," he said. I gave him everything. From the call, inviting me to the poisoned drink to the shove overboard. I showed him the footage, the emergency ping, my private audio logs from earlier that week. His face paled. "We'll need warrants." I nodded. "You might want to notify someone you trust." I didn't have many, but I had a lawyer and one former journalist friend who ran a popular blog about family betrayals and hidden abuse. I sent them both the video. Then I posted a 2-minute clip to my own social media account with the caption, "This is what happened to me and my son. My own family tried to kill us." The video exploded. Within hours, we were trending on 3 platforms, hashtags filled with outrage and disbelief. Strangers offering support. People tagging journalists, law enforcement, and domestic violence advocates. By the time Camila, Grayson, and Morgan landed back in the States, warrants had been issued. Their estate was being watched, and they had no clue. Camila always said I was dramatic, too sensitive, a spotlight seeker. So I wonder what she thought when she walked into her own marble-floored foyer and found me sitting on the velvet sofa very much alive, my son on my lap flanked by 2 uniformed officers. Grayson entered behind her, lugging his suitcase like a warlord returning from conquest. Morgan followed with her usual resting smug face. And then they froze. Camila's mouth opened first. "Wah, you're supposed to be dead," Morgan blurted out. Grayson didn't say a word. He just looked at me like I'd clawed my way out of his worst nightmare. I stood up slowly, still holding Ezra's hand. "You left us for dead," I said. "But lucky for me, I know how to swim, and I know how to record." I raised my phone, "And the whole world has already seen your performance." One of the officers stepped forward. "Grayson Donovan, Camila, Donovan Morgan Brennan, you are under arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy." Morgan tried to back away. "You can't be serious. You can't do this." Actually, the officer said, clamping cuffs on her wrist, "We absolutely can." Camila started screaming, then something about betrayal, family shame, ungrateful children. I didn't bother to respond. Grayson didn't scream. He just looked at me with that same bitter disappointment he always carried, like I'd once again failed to become the daughter he wanted. This time I didn't flinch. The trial moved faster than I expected, probably because the evidence was airtight. The footage from my phone, the GPS data, the poison test results on the cocoa mug, my son's own testimony recorded gently through a child specialist. But what shocked the courtroom most wasn't the attempted murder charges. It was the why. Turns out, Grayson had no terminal illness. His doctor was a country club buddy with a fake online certification and a flair for drama. It was all a lie. A lie to lure me onto that boat? The real reason? While everyone had been busy dismissing my little investment hobby, I had quietly become the majority shareholder in Donovan Maritime, our family's company. It wasn't spite. It was strategy. I'd studied their patterns for years. Grayson had never believed in long-term plays or sustainable funds. I did. When my investments paid off big time, I reinvested into the company legally, quietly, smartly. I owned 52% by the time we stepped foot on that yacht. They knew, and they panicked. Watching them in court was surreal. Camila tried to fake remorse, but couldn't keep the act up past the second day. Morgan oscillated between smug defiance and full-blown tantrums. And Grayson, he stayed silent, mostly. Until sentencing day, I hereby sentence each of the defendants to 25 years in federal prison, the judge declared. The room buzzed. Media crews were packed wall to wall. My social video had gone viral weeks earlier, and now the world was watching the justice system catch up. Morgan sobbed. I didn't push her. I swear I didn't mean to. Grayson finally looked at me. You were always a threat, he said. You just had to ruin everything, didn't you? I stood calm and steady. No, I replied. You ruined yourselves the day you decided your power mattered more than your humanity. They were led away in cuffs. I didn't feel triumphant, just hollow. Justice, yes. But closure. That would take time. Ezra and I moved shortly after New City, new names on the mailbox. New life. I started a nonprofit called Anchored Hearts for survivors of family betrayal, emotional abuse, and coercive control. Turns out there were thousands of people with stories like mine. People who were gaslit, erased, used, then discarded. We weren't alone, not anymore. My inbox overflowed daily. Your story gave me courage. I thought I was crazy until I watched your video. I finally left my toxic family, thank you. I didn't post to go viral. I posted because silence would have killed me long before the sea ever could. But if survival turns into a signal flare for others still swimming in it, then maybe all of it meant something. 6 months later, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name. Inside shaky handwriting filled a single page. It was from Grayson. He had suffered a stroke in prison. His left side was paralyzed. The doctor said he may never walk again. The letter was full of regret, of apologies. I was blinded by legacy, he wrote. By control, I failed you. Leah, I failed us all. I didn't cry, I didn't forgive, but I felt lighter. Not because he suffered, but because I no longer needed his approval. One rainy Sunday. Ezra and I were at the park. He was chasing bubbles with another kid while I sipped coffee under a gazebo. A woman approached, maybe mid-30s, nervous smile. Are you Leah from the story? I nodded. She exhaled. I just wanted to say thank you. My mom was like yours and your video. It was the first time I didn't feel crazy. I stood, hugged her. She wept into my jacket for a second. I didn't say anything. Sometimes just existing is the loudest revolution. That night, Ezra showed me a tiny wooden ship he'd built from craft sticks and string. I made this for you, he said. Because you're the strongest captain in the world. I nearly broke, but I smiled, kissed his head. Thanks, buddy. I'll sail it forever. Grayson's letter haunted me more than I wanted to admit. I didn't forgive him, but I couldn't hate him either, not completely. That was the kind of emotional purgatory people don't talk about. He was my father. He tried to kill me. Both things were true. But life, strangely enough, doesn't slow down for emotional complexity, especially when you're raising a 5-year-old who thinks dinosaurs could still be hiding in Florida's swamps. Ezra and I had moved into a modest, sun-filled townhouse near Clearwater Beach. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. It didn't have ghosts in the wallpaper, just the scent of fresh paint and possibility. I'd spent years chasing approval, running numbers, defending my worth. Now every morning started with Ezra asking for peanut butter toast and a weather report for his imaginary sea crew. That was my reward. That and finally sleeping through the night without locking the door. A few weeks after the trial, a producer from a major streaming platform reached out. They wanted to adapt my story, turn it into a documentary. At first I refused. Too raw, too soon, too much. But then I started thinking, if someone had told me 5 years ago that family betrayal could be documented, not dismissed, maybe I would have left sooner. Maybe I wouldn't have doubted my sanity so often. Maybe other women and men would find strength in truth if someone said it first. So, I said yes. They sent a small, respectful crew. No invasive setups. Just a camera person, a sound tech, and a producer named Maya Sharp, eyes, soft voice. "Tell it your way," she said. "No edits to your truth." I liked that. I told the story, sitting on my living room floor, Ezra's spaceship drawings taped to the wall behind me. The camera caught my real-life socks on the couch, mismatched mugs, me tugging a curl behind my ear when I talked about trauma. There was no script, just my voice and what I had survived. I didn't cry when I told them about the fall from the yacht. I cried when I remembered Ezra saying, "Mommy, are we going to disappear?" That was the moment I'd realized if I didn't fight, if I didn't record, if I didn't speak, then yes, we would disappear, and the world would never know. Camila, meanwhile, had begun a pathetic PR campaign from prison. She claimed I had distorted the truth. Said the video was out of context and told a podcast host she'd always loved Leah, just not her choices. Morgan, in one jailhouse interview, called me a cold manipulator who had weaponized the internet. I didn't respond. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't have to. Every time I opened my inbox, I saw stories that mirrored mine. My brother got the house, I got ignored. My mom defended my abuser for years. Your story gave me permission to leave. I showed your video to my therapist. We cried together. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was healing and helping others do the same. 6 months into our new life. Something strange happened. A letter arrived for Ezra. Not from the courts, from Morgan. I didn't open it. I let him decide. He tore the envelope awkwardly like it was a game. Inside was a card with a poorly drawn cartoon whale. It said, "I'm sorry for everything you didn't deserve it, love, Aunt Morgan." No return address, no signature beyond her name. Ezra looked up at me. "Can I write back?" My throat tightened. "Do you want to?" He nodded, but just one letter, that's all. He wrote in crayon, "Dear Aunt Morgan, I don't like what you did, but I hope you're not mean anymore. By Ezra." He added a smiley face, then folded it and handed it to me. I didn't send it, but I kept it not for Morgan. For Ezra when he's older, so he'll remember that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's a choice. One he gets to make or not. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Ezra said one night, curled up next to me on the couch. "Anything. If they were family, why did they do that to us?" I paused. Kids ask questions in ways adults never can. "I think some people think love means control," I said. "And when they can't control you anymore, they get scared and hurtful. But that's not real love." He blinked. "What's real love?" I pointed at his tiny hand in mine, this. He smiled, then yawned. "I like our family better." "So do I." When the documentary aired, it was called Drift: Surviving the Family That Tried to Drown Me. It hit harder than I expected. Not because of the visuals, though. Seeing myself clinging to Ezra in the open water broke me in a way I didn't anticipate. But because of the ending. The final scene was just the two of us in the park flying a kite. Ezra laughed so hard the mic crackled. That sound, that pure, untouchable joy, that was my real victory. Not the arrest, not the sentence, not the headlines. Just him, laughing free. The documentary changed everything again. It aired on a Friday night, and by Saturday morning, my inbox looked like a crisis hotline. Messages from strangers, some whispering gratitude, some screaming their own buried truths. I never knew what to call what my family did to me until I watched this. I didn't survive the ocean, but I survived something worse. You gave me language for it. I'm 17. I showed this to my mom. She finally believed me. I didn't set out to become a symbol. I wasn't interested in martyrdom, but something had shifted. People didn't just see me as the woman who fell off a boat anymore. They saw me as someone who climbed back up for her kid, for herself, for all the others who couldn't. And maybe that was the thing about survival. Once you stop apologizing for it, it becomes something others can hold on to too. A few weeks later, I got a call from a lawyer named Vincent, sharp voice like a gravel road, calm but serious. "Leah Donovan," he asked. "Speaking. I'm handling Grayson Donovan's estate. He passed away last night in federal custody." I didn't respond right away. "He had another stroke. Didn't survive this one." "Oh," I said. That's all I could say. "I know this is complicated," he added. "But you were listed as the sole beneficiary. Everything property shares personal effects, it's yours. A pause. He left something for you, a sealed letter. I didn't cry when he told me my father had died. I didn't feel nothing either. It was a strange, dull ache, like walking into an old house you once loved only to find it empty and echoing. The letter arrived in a plain manila envelope. No drama, no flourish, just my name written in a familiar slant I hadn't seen in years. Inside, Leah, I won't pretend this letter will fix what I broke. I wanted legacy more than I wanted love, and I see now how hollow that was. I thought control meant strength. But you showed me something else. You led without rage. You stood without permission. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to love you better when I had the chance. Ezra is lucky to have you. I hope wherever this reaches you, you've built a life better than the one we tried to trap you in. No expectations, just truth, Grayson. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it and tucked it away. Not to keep the pain, but to mark the end of it. The estate was a mess. The family home was covered in dust and judgment. His office still smelled like cologne and ink. I didn't want the house. Not really, but I walked through it anyway. In the den, I found old photos, ones I wasn't in. Birthdays, holidays, milestones where I'd been physically present yet emotionally erased. But then I found one tucked behind a filing cabinet. It was of me and Grayson back when I was maybe 10. I'd just won a math award. He was crouched beside me, one arm over my shoulder. Neither of us was smiling, but the photo was real, a posed. That one I took with me. The rest I left behind. I sold the estate. Donated part of the proceeds to domestic violence programs that supported children recovering from trauma. The rest went into Ezra's trust fund and the growth of Anchored Hearts. We expanded fast. What started as a small hotline became a network legal help emergency. Housing contacts therapists trained in family estrangement and education resources for kids like Ezra. I didn't want to just tell stories. I wanted to help rewrite them. Morgan and Camila remained in prison. Camila, according to an insider tip, was still running the inmate book club like a boarding school headmistress. Morgan kept to herself. She'd stopped granting interviews. Maybe shame finally caught up. Maybe no one cared anymore. I didn't check. I didn't need to. The past no longer felt like a monster hiding under my bed. It was just over. Ezra started kindergarten that fall. He wore a dinosaur backpack and sneakers that lit up. His teacher, Ms. Raymond, called me 2 weeks in to tell me he'd stood up to a kid bullying someone else. He said, "You don't push people smaller than you. That's what cowards do." I couldn't help it. I laughed. "That sounds familiar," I said. "He's brave," she said, "and kind." "You're doing a great job, Mom." Those words. They hit harder than any apology I'd ever begged my own mother to say. One night after Ezra fell asleep, I sat on the porch with a mug of tea, the sky a swirl of stars and quiet. I thought about the word legacy. Grayson used it like a threat. Camila used it like a crown. Morgan used it like a birthright. But to me, it wasn't about names on buildings or shares in a firm. Legacy was what Ezra would remember when he thought of love. How safe he felt in his home. How loud he could laugh. How free he was to cry. That was the legacy I was building now with every bedtime story, every packed lunch, every quiet promise to never let history repeat itself. The world had watched me fall, then rise, and now they were watching me live. They say time heals. I don't fully agree. Time softens, maybe, rounds out the edges of sharp memories. But healing, that comes from the work, the choices, the refusal to carry what was never yours in the first place. And that's what I kept doing one day at a time. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I wanted to live. It had been over a year since the incident on the Silver Horizon. The documentary was still trending in niche circles. I'd even seen it pop up in TikTok breakdowns, complete with dramatic soundtracks and reaction duets. The internet had done what it always does, turned pain into collective fire. But beyond the screens, something more meaningful had taken shape. Anchored Hearts was now a recognized nonprofit with satellite programs in 3 states. We had survivor circles, trauma-informed counselors, and a growing database of safe legal contacts for people navigating family betrayal. Sometimes I sat in those groups not as a leader, just as a listener, and sometimes someone would recognize me. Their voice would shake when they said thank you. Every time I answered the same way you saved yourself, I just reminded you it was possible Ezra was thriving. He talked to trees, named every snail in the garden, told strangers at the grocery store that his mom was stronger than Wonder Woman, which was generous but wildly inaccurate. I hate cardio. He still had questions, though. Do you think Grandpa really meant the letter? Why do some people hurt the ones they're supposed to love? Will we ever see Morgan again? I answered what I could, told him when I didn't know, and always reminded him that the choices other people make don't define who he gets to be. He was already better than all of them, and he didn't even know it yet. One Saturday, we were at a local community fair. Balloons, chalk art, too much cotton candy. I was manning a booth for Anchored Hearts when a woman approached, mid-40s, sharp blazer, steady eyes. Leah Donovan. I straightened, yes. I'm Claire Mathers, social services consultant. I've followed your work. I watched your story unfold from the beginning. I braced myself, but she smiled. I want to offer you a grant for expansion. We need more of what you're doing, not less. I blinked. Wait, seriously. She handed me a folder. Let's make sure the next person doesn't need a viral video to be believed. I think that's when I finally cried. Right there, at a community fair. Next to a toddler with face paint and a very aggressive lemonade stand. Because sometimes it hits you all at once that you didn't just survive the worst thing. You transformed it. A few days later, I got a call. One I didn't expect. It was from the warden of the prison where Camila and Morgan were held. Camila Donovan has passed, he said, heart failure. There was a pause, as if he was waiting for some kind of reaction. She listed you as her next of kin. Funeral arrangements are yours to decide. I sat quietly for a moment, letting the words settle. Then I said, she always wanted a quiet life. Let's give her one. No funeral, no memorial, just a legal cremation and donation to a local women's shelter in her name. Poetic, I thought. She'd finally done something good, even if unintentionally. Morgan was reportedly shaken by the news. Rumors swirled that she was trying to secure early parole, that she'd written a new letter to me, never sent, just stored in her cell drawer. But I wasn't waiting for closure anymore. I had found it in Ezra's laughter, in our garden's slow bloom, in the quiet joy of Saturday pancakes and early morning cuddles. Some stories don't need sequels. They just need to end. A year and a half after that terrible cruise, I stood on stage at a small fundraising gala surrounded by people who had walked through their own versions of fire. The audience was quiet. Listening. I looked down at my speech, then folded the paper and set it aside. And I spoke from the only place that ever told the truth, my heart. I used to think survival meant staying quiet. That being the bigger person meant swallowing pain. That family was something you couldn't question, only endure. But then I remembered something simple. Love doesn't make you feel small. It doesn't ask you to disappear. I thought falling into the ocean would be the end of my story, but it wasn't. It was the beginning. And if you're here listening, it means you're still writing yours too. The applause that followed wasn't thunderous. It was gentle, respectful. The kind you give to someone who's bled in front of you and still stood up to say, I'm here. Afterward, a teenage girl approached me, eyes full of tears. My dad says I'm ungrateful, that I should be more like my brother. But when I watched your story, I realized I'm not broken, I'm just me. She hugged me so tight it knocked the breath from my chest. And that's when I knew this wasn't just my survival story anymore. It was ours. That night back home, Ezra curled up next to me on the couch. He pointed to the ceiling. If we were stars, which ones would we be? I smiled. You'd be the bright one, always moving. What about you? I'd be the one right beside you, always there, even when it's dark. He yawned. I'm glad we're not lost anymore. Me too, baby, I whispered. Me too. And just like that, we weren't a broken family. We were a rebuilt one. Stronger, softer. Real story too. Jennifer Morrison sat comfortably on her patio holding her coffee cup in both hands as she looked out over the street trees at the lowering sun. Des Moines, Iowa, had a frigid fall as the temperature rapidly dropped after nightfall. On a Sunday afternoon, she had scheduled a meeting with a colleague in this cafe, but the other person had not yet arrived. "I apologize for being late." Breathless, Karen hurried over. Jennifer waved and smiled and said that Karen worked for the same real estate firm. "Everything is all right. I arrived here just now." She told a falsehood. She had really been sitting there for 20 minutes. Jennifer consistently showed up early for appointments and was diligent. Her mother had taught her a basic lesson. "Don't make folks wait. You'll be shocked. I have fantastic news." Karen eagerly took a seat. "I've heard that you have the property in Silver Lake Estates." Jennifer gave a joyful nod. Managing such property was a noteworthy accomplishment because Silver Lake Estates was a renowned, affluent neighborhood. Her long-held goal of becoming one of Des Moines' best real estate brokers was one step closer. "Thank you. It has not yet been formally announced." Jennifer gave a shy grin. "Those lakefront houses were always something I adored as a kid. I can now assist someone else in realizing their dream." Naturally, their talk turned to family issues after they had discussed employment. "Amy must be beginning her college preparations," Karen inquired. "Indeed, she's already looking into her alternatives," Jennifer stated triumphantly. "I think she'll have many choices because she's smart. However, she also has artistic skill, so it appears that she is having trouble deciding which course to follow." Jennifer pulled her smartphone out of her bag when the phone rang. The name Brian appeared on the screen. "It's my hubby. I apologize." After a little pause, she responded. "Hi there, yes. Karen and I are still at the cafe." Jennifer hung up the phone and sighed a little. "According to Brian, he will be late once more tonight. He's having a lengthy meeting with a new customer." Karen looked at her pityingly. "He seems to be really busy these days." "Indeed, over the past 3 months or so, after he was promoted to loan manager at the bank." Jennifer faked a grin. It appears that his responsibilities have grown. She was approaching the 18th year of her marriage to Brian. They were married shortly after graduating from college where they had first met. This year, their daughter Amy celebrated her 15th birthday and was having a great time in high school. Although they appeared to be the ideal family, Jennifer felt that things had been shifting lately. "What's up with Brian?" Karen asked thoughtfully. She was a close friend of Jennifer's and had recently observed some minor changes in the couple's relationship. "He's just busy," Jennifer said right away. Then she went on as though to shift the topic. "Above all, Amy won last week's arithmetic competition. Her aptitude for arithmetic was undoubtedly acquired from Brian." After their chat, Jennifer came home to find Amy using her laptop while seated in the living room. Her kid resembled her mother in every way, even the way she wore glasses and pulled back her long brown hair. "Mom, you've returned." Amy smiled as she glanced up. "Do you know anyone who posts tales on YouTube and makes over $10,000 a month? Just a laptop, no voice, no face. I do it. Click the link below if you're interested." "Did Dad send you an email?" "He claims that tonight he will be late once more." "Indeed, he gave me a call." "Have you completed your assignment?" "Nearing completion. I'm now working on my art project." There was a strong bond and mutual understanding between mother and daughter. 10 years ago, Jennifer's mother passed away from cancer. Even though Amy was only 5 years old at the time she helped her mother. They both took away from that event how important family ties are. "Before your father arrives home, make sure you're done. Tonight, we agreed to see a movie together." "Is Dad going to arrive in time?" Amy's voice had a tinge of uncertainty. "So," he said. "I'll be home," he said. Jennifer responded with a hesitant tone. Jennifer stood in the kitchen and looked out the window. It was already becoming dark, and the autumn dusk arrived early. She thought back to her first encounter with Brian. He had been fervent at the time, full of aspirations and future goals. They believed they had similar principles and had discussed their life aspirations. Dad sent a message to Mom. Amy yelled abruptly, He claims that he will indeed be late this evening. He requests that the film be rescheduled for the following weekend. Jennifer hesitated a second. She turned to her kid after taking a big breath. I get it. Shall we watch it then? Only the two of us. With a smile, she made the suggestion. Amy's eyes met her mother's. She seems to be able to perceive something underneath the surface brightness. Are you concerned about Dad? Mom? Jennifer paused for a second. She was occasionally taken aback by her daughter's acute observation, but she was more lonely than alarmed. However, it's all right. Dad puts in a lot of effort for us. Amy gave a silent nod. Don't you think Dad has changed recently? She asked nonchalantly. He appears to be concealing something. Jennifer made an effort to act normal and conceal her discomfort. Absolutely not. He's simply occupied on Friday afternoon. Jennifer had just completed a significant transaction. A significant milestone in her career had been reached with the successful sale of the Silver Lake Estates property. She was ecstatic at a small celebration in the office, surrounded by congrats from her coworkers. She held a wine glass and stood grinning. I'll give you a call. Jennifer Diana from reception came over, looking serious. They claim that it is urgent. Jennifer frowned and checked her mobile phone. Indeed, there were several missed calls. She hurried to take the call. Hi there, is this Mrs. Morrison? This is the reception desk at St. Joseph's Hospital. Your husband, Brian Morrison, has been brought in following a traffic accident. The calm voice on the other end of the line changed Jennifer's world in an instant. The surrounding sounds faded away, and she could only hear her own heartbeat. How serious is it? Her voice trembled. Could you come right away? The doctor is waiting for you. Before rushing out of the office, she contacted Amy's school. She explained the situation and arranged for her daughter to be brought directly to the hospital. The hospital corridor seemed endless. In the waiting room, Jennifer was directed to a middle-aged doctor in a white coat greeted her. Mrs. Morrison, I'm Dr. Williams. He quietly offered his hand. Your husband is in critical condition and unconscious. There may be damage to his brain. When will he regain consciousness? Jennifer asked with a trembling voice. That is, honestly, we can't predict. Some patients recover in days, others in months. Or, the doctor's words trailed off. Jennifer collapsed into a chair. What happened? It appears he collided with another car at an intersection. The airbags deployed, but he received a strong impact to his head. We're currently conducting detailed examinations, unable to comprehend even half of the doctor's explanation. Jennifer felt memories of her husband racing through her mind like a film reel. The day they first met in the university library, their kiss at their wedding, his joy-filled face when Amy was born, and then his distant gaze recently, his frequent late returns home, the slight distance she had begun to feel. Can I see him? She asked in a shaky voice. When she entered the hospital room, Brian lay surrounded by countless tubes and machines. He looked so quiet and fragile, unimaginably different from his usually energetic self. Jennifer sat by his bedside and held his cold hand. Brian, she called softly. It's me, Jennifer. It's okay. You're in the hospital. Amy will be here soon. There was no response. Only the monitor made regular sounds indicating that his heart was indeed beating. Amy arrived 30 minutes later, accompanied by the school counselor. The girl stopped at the doorway to the room and lost color in her face when she saw her father. Amy's voice was hoarse. Jennifer stood up and embraced her daughter. It's okay. Dad is strong. He'll definitely wake up. From that day on, visiting the hospital became Jennifer's daily routine. For the first week, there was no noticeable change in Brian's condition. The doctors merely explained that it's a matter of time whether consciousness returns or not. The brain scan results show activity gradually recovering. The attending physician explained it's a good sign, but we can't predict exactly when consciousness will return. Jennifer reduced her workload and visited the hospital every day after school. Amy would also come directly to the hospital reading books to her father or telling him about events at school. "Dad, can you hear me? I got a perfect score on my math test today. I solved it using the method you taught me." Amy sat by the bedside holding her father's hand. "Someday you'll definitely wake up and we'll solve problems together again." About 3 weeks later, Jennifer met Melissa Clark, Brian's assigned nurse. She was kind and dedicated to Brian's care, offering words of encouragement to Jennifer. "Mrs. Morrison, don't lose hope. At my former hospital, there was a patient who unexpectedly woke up after 2 years." Melissa smiled sweetly. "Thank you, Melissa. It's really reassuring to have you here." Jennifer expressed sincere gratitude. Melissa seemed to pay great attention to Brian's care, occasionally coming to check on him even beyond her working hours. Jennifer appreciated her devotion. 3 months after the accident, Jennifer's life had begun to revolve around commuting between the hospital and work. Concerns about medical and living expenditures were mounting, but she was surviving with insurance and help from people around her. "Mrs. Morrison, you came again today." Nancy, at reception, welcomed her kindly. "Indeed, I assume if I keep talking to him, he might hear me someplace." Jennifer smiled wearily. Amy had gotten busy with school academics and club activities and couldn't visit the hospital as regularly as before. She immersed herself in literary club activities after school and occasionally penned small poems or stories. It was her method of evading reality. One day, Jennifer was in Brian's hospital room softly chatting to him while holding his hand. "The sun came out today. After a long time, our garden's roses have begun to blossom. Do you recall the red rose you planted?" Melissa entered through the open door. "Please, pardon me. He has to have his vitals checked." During her duties, she replaced Brian's for drip and used her trained hands to examine his health. She gave Jennifer a warm smile. "I'm getting positive vibes. It appears that his brain activity is progressively increasing." "Really?" Jennifer's eyes brightened with optimism. "Indeed, the most recent test findings confirm it. After Melissa gone, he will undoubtedly recover." Jennifer's eyes were fixed on Brian's. He had a calm face, as though he were sound asleep. She sighed a little and caressed his cheek. "Return shortly. We are awaiting your arrival." For the first time in a long time, Amy went to the hospital by herself after finishing her final examinations over the weekend. Due to a significant real estate deal, Jennifer was unable to attend. As Amy walked down the lengthy hallway, she became aware that she was already used to the medical environment. She had become accustomed to the sound of automobile bells and the scent of disinfectant, which had initially alarmed her. She felt that the mood was changed on the way to her father's chamber. There was something wrong. "My dad is on the floor, and I would like to go there." Amy went up to a nurse in the elevator lobby. "Oh, the daughter of Mr. Morrison. Your father is now undergoing testing. He will return soon." A new nurse answered. Amy made the decision to wait in the waiting area while using her smartphone to browse social media. As she occurred to look out the window, she saw a person walking out the rear entrance of the hospital. She looked more closely and saw it was Melissa. As the soft May sunshine fell on her shoulders, Amy followed Melissa out of the hospital out of curiosity. From a distance, she watched the nurses' activities. Melissa walked quickly and went inside. Morning Brew, a cafe located about a block from the hospital. Melissa was seated near the window, apparently waiting for someone, when she peered through the cafe window. Amy decided and went into the cafe. She sat at a corner table, ordered a chocolate milk, and purchased time at the order counter. After 15 minutes or so, a man walked in via the cafe entrance. Amy let out a gasp. Something about the man's back seemed familiar. He went directly to Melissa's table without ever turning back. Following a cordial greeting, the man sat down and gave Melissa a quick peck on the cheek before they started speaking earnestly. Amy pulled out her phone and pointed it subtly toward them, snapping a few pictures. Her heart skipped a beat as the camera caught the man's profile. No error occurred. Her father was the one Melissa was visiting with her father, who was supposedly in a coma. With shaky palms gripping her smartphone, Amy's mind was racing with several ideas. She shifted in her chair just enough to listen in on their chat. "Let's get this over with." They heard her father's voice. "Although I'm really sorry for Jenny and Amy, we must continue as planned for a little while longer." Melissa spoke urgently. Amy didn't need to hear any more when the insurance money arrived. She rushed back to the hospital after leaving the cafe. Her thoughts were racing. Her father was lying to his wife and daughter while in a hospital bed feigning a coma, and it seems that insurance money was involved. Amy returned to the hospital and went quietly to her father's room. It was deserted. Her father wasn't there, but the bed was still there, the 4 drips and medical equipment still functioning. She scanned the hallway while hiding in the shadow of the door. After 15 minutes or so, Melissa came back into the room. Before going inside, she took a close look around. Amy set up the camera on her phone and waited in silence. After 5 minutes, a man who looked like her father came around the corner of the hall. Like him, he looked around before slinking inside the room. Amy attempted to record the moment, but she was unable to acquire a decent picture due to the bad perspective. Amy waited resolutely until there was no more traffic in the corridor, then stealthily made their way to the room's door. She could peep inside through a little opening in the door. She grabbed her phone and started to record with the camera. She noticed Melissa softly caressing her father's hair as he lay in bed. After Amy's heart almost stopped beating, her father opened his eyes and spoke to Melissa. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but their voices were low. With shaking hands, Amy kept shooting, catching her father as he reverted to his coma position as though he were rehearsing. Melissa's father gave him a little grin when she kissed his forehead. After gathering enough proof, Amy rushed out of the hospital. She felt anger, sadness, and a great deal of sympathy for her mother. Amy was taken to the hospital by Jennifer that weekend. As usual, Amy seemed to be deep in thought and was quieter than usual. She had been struggling to figure out how to tell her mom as they arrived in the room. As usual, Brian remained still while the monitor made its usual noises. Jennifer softly chatted to her spouse while holding his hand. "Brian, it's another lovely day. Our garden's roses have begun to blossom. Do you recall the red rose you planted?" Jennifer spoke in a kind and hopeful tone. Amy clutched her smartphone as she stood in the room's corner. She couldn't stop thinking about the pictures and video she had unintentionally taken yesterday. She felt compelled to reveal the truth, but she also didn't want to harm her mother. "Why don't you speak to your father, Amy?" Jennifer pivoted. "Indeed." Amy walked grudgingly up to the bed. "Dad, how are you?" Her voice faltered. Her heart ached as she looked at her father's face and imagined how he was trying frantically not to blink. Jennifer continued, "The doctors say they're seeing good signs," as she softly caressed Brian's hair. "It appears that his brain activity is progressively increasing." "Really?" Amy inquired out of habit. "Indeed. Melissa informed me that she sincerely hopes Dad gets better." Amy's face tightened at the sound of that name. The fact that her mother had yet to detect anything was painfully obvious. "Could you show me your phone?" Jennifer asked abruptly. "My phone's battery died, but I still want to email my sister a picture." Amy was agitated. Right now, the battery is quite low in the midst of the stress, Amy decided. She was unable to conceal this any longer. The truth was something her mother was entitled to know. "I need to talk to you, Mom," Amy said with determination. "What is it?" Jennifer gave her daughter a grin. "Not in this place." Amy gestured out of the room. They entered the corridor. Amy inhaled deeply before speaking resolutely. "Dad is lying, Mom. He's conscious." Jennifer's gaze expanded. "What do you say?" "That isn't feasible. I have proof." Amy's look was serious. Amy pulled her phone out and gave it to her mom. "Take a look at this," Jennifer gasped as she gazed at the television. At a cafe behind the hospital, Brian and Melissa were holding hands and having a private conversation, They were seen kissing on the hospital's emergency stairway in another picture. Further swiping revealed a little video of a somewhat unconscious Brian opening his eyes and looking about. "What time was this?" Jennifer shook her voice. "I took these this morning, and yesterday Melissa and Dad appeared to be involved. Dad is acting as though he is in a coma." Jennifer's face was devoid of color. In an attempt to collect her breath, she leaned against the wall. 18 years of marriage. The trust and family they had established together? Was all of it only a sandcastle? "Are you all right, Mom?" Amy held her mother's arm anxiously. "I'm all right. It's simply unbelievable." Even though Jennifer was crying, her face slowly transformed from one of astonishment and grief to one of rage. "They have been getting together after we go. She always offered to work nights because of this." Jennifer's tone had become icy. "How will we proceed?" Amy inquired nervously. "We're about to leave this hospital." Jennifer gripped her daughter's hand tightly. "Is Dad's phone with you indeed? Since the accident, I have kept it, and the keys to the car." "Indeed, then let's go." After taking Amy's hand, Jennifer and Amy exited the hospital room in silence. During the elevator journey to the first-floor lobby, they remained silent. Jennifer gave Amy the vehicle keys as they left the hospital. "Where are we heading?" Amy inquired. "To pack our belongings. We went to a lawyer's office, the bank, and finally home." The poise had returned to Jennifer's voice. "I will never again see that man." Jennifer didn't turn around as the car pulled out of the hospital parking lot. Following their discharge from the hospital, Jennifer and Amy drove to the home of Jennifer's sister, Caroline. They remained silent. Jennifer finally said anything. "What you did?" "Amy was really courageous," she said, while keeping her gaze fixed on the road. "I appreciate you telling me the truth. I understand how challenging it must have been." Amy only gave a faint nod. Her face was so tired that it was mirrored in the vehicle window. Why would Dad act in this way? I also don't know. However, one thing is for sure, we are unable to return to the circumstances that existed when they first got to Caroline's residence. Her sister gave them a hearty welcome. She lived alone in the large colonial-style home while her husband Stephen was abroad on business. Caroline explained the circumstances and then vented her rage. "It's unbelievable for Brian to act in that way." She paced the living room back and forth, exclaiming, "What was he contemplating? 3 months of pretending to be in a coma." Jennifer's voice was worn out as she added, "I still can't get my thoughts straight." "I need time to reflect. You are welcome to remain here for as long as you need to." Caroline touched the shoulder of her sister. "Tomorrow, let's get in touch with a lawyer. Divorce cases are my buddy Robert Kane's area of expertise." That evening, after Amy had fallen asleep, Jennifer and Caroline sat at the kitchen table and drank wine. She thought back on her 18 years of marriage. "Were there any indications?" Caroline inquired softly. "Lately, he began to arrive home more frequently. However, I mistook it for work." Jennifer twirled her glass in response. "I might not have wanted to watch it. Don't hold yourself responsible. You made a fantastic wife." Amy heard them discussing insurance funds. Jennifer realized all of a sudden, I wonder whether there was a death benefit included in the insurance. If he is employed by a bank, it might be disability insurance. He ought to sign up for a high-value policy. They slept through the night. Jennifer went to the lawyer's office the following morning. After paying close attention to her account, lawyer Robert Keene looked over the video and picture evidence. Attorney Keene stated that this is obviously a case of fraud. We should take numerous actions. First and foremost, safeguard your financial accounts. To protect your assets, you must create new accounts right away if you have joint ones, Jennifer answered. I opened a separate account yesterday. Well done. After that, I suggest alerting the insurance provider and speaking with law enforcement on the potential for medical fraud. Jennifer gave a nod. I also want to begin the divorce process. Naturally, but I think we should keep gathering proof. It is possible that your spouse will magically come out of his coma following the consultation with the attorney. Amy and Jennifer went back home to get their personal stuff and the required paperwork. Amy started looking at her dad's desk. "Look at this, Mom," Amy said, displaying a pile of papers she had taken out of the drawer. Jennifer's hue altered as she perused the papers. Bundles of racetrack and casino receipts, threatening letters from loan sharks and Dunning, notifications from many banks were all there. Debt of more than $200,000. "I didn't know?" Jennifer shook her voice. "Dad gambled." Amy looked astonished as she asked. "So it seemed. What a huge secret." Jennifer couldn't think of anything to say. Their marriage seemed to be eroding from the ground up. Jennifer phoned the insurance company as advised by the lawyer. After learning of the circumstances, the insurance company representative pledged to start an inquiry right away. Jim Parker, an insurance investigator, remarked, "Mrs. Morrison, we never imagined such a situation existed. We'll begin the process of recouping the already paid disability insurance benefits. Additionally, this will need to be reported to the police as fraud." "I get it," Jennifer said coolly. "I'll do my best to cooperate." "Such deception usually doesn't survive long. They ultimately make mistakes," Parker added. Jennifer was able to meet with Dr. Smith a few days later with the help of her attorney. Brian's attending physician, Dr. Smith, first maintained his official position on Brian's illness, but after seeing the proof, his perspective dramatically shifted. "This is a significant issue." With perspiration trickling down his brow, Dr. Smith spoke. "I got tricked. Melissa gave me the results of the daily tests." "You're claiming that you weren't involved," sharply. Attorney Kane inquired. "Not at all. My reputation is impacted by this issue." Administrators at the hospital also met with Jennifer and her team to discuss the matter. The hospital stated that it was eager to work with the authorities and promised an internal inquiry. Brian abruptly regained consciousness 3 weeks after the formal police inquiry got underway. This was declared a medical miracle by the hospital. On the day Brian was getting set to be released from the hospital, police officers showed up in his room without telling him that an internal inquiry was already in progress. Melissa was arrested at work at the same time. After being questioned individually, Brian ultimately admitted everything. "I was in a financial bind." He said, "I owed a lot of money from gambling and had no way of paying it back. The idea was to pay back a portion of it with the insurance money and use the rest to start a new life with Melissa." In Caroline's living room, Jennifer saw the news about her ex-husband's arrest. Her face was expressionless as she watched Brian's image on the TV. "Are you all right, Mom?" Amy sat next to her. "Indeed, I'm all right." Jennifer grasped the hand of her daughter. "Even though it hurts, we can now at last proceed." Jennifer faced Brian for the first time in the courthouse corridor. He was a far cry from the self-assured man he had once been. Brian remarked in a quiet voice, "I want to talk to you." "I don't have to listen," Jennifer said coolly. "I just want to say I'm sorry. I really apologize for causing you and Amy pain. You did this, but why?" Jennifer was compelled to inquire. "I felt constrained," Brian replied without looking up. "Freedom was what I want. I needed to go away after meeting Melissa." After a long period of silence, Jennifer whispered softly, "You had options. You had the option to really want a divorce, but you went the worst route." After a 2-month trial, Brian and Melissa were finally found guilty. Forgery of documents, medical fraud, and insurance fraud. Brian was sentenced to 5 years in jail. Melissa was sentenced to 3 years in jail. Jennifer and Amy moved into a new apartment 1 week following the sentencing. She made the decision to concentrate more on her job and kept working at the real estate firm. Jennifer opened a cardboard box for us and said, "This is our real start." Amy looked at her mom's face. Jennifer's eyes were regaining the hope that had been gone for so long. "We'll be all right." Amy grinned, "Since we have one another." It was an early summer Saturday. 1 year following Brian's trial, Jennifer was tending to her garden in the backyard of her new suburban house in Des Moines. She was promoted to branch manager in the Silver Lake region for her job performance at the real estate firm, which allowed her and her daughter to move into a larger home. As she cared for the roses, she considered how the previous year had changed. "Is the barbecue ready?" "Mom," from the backyard. "Amy called Mike and Lisa promised to be here shortly," Jennifer said, taking off her gloves. "Just a few more minutes." She went into the kitchen and saw Amy using her smartphone to play music while preparing salad. Jennifer was relieved to see her daughters look brighter than before. "Have you responded to the letter from your father?" Jennifer asked thoughtfully. Amy had been receiving letters from Brian from prison on a regular basis. "Yes," Amy said, still working. "I mailed it yesterday. It appears that Dad is undergoing therapy as part of a recovery program. He claims that he is starting to take ownership of his actions." Jennifer gave a quiet nod. She didn't want to ruin the bond between father and daughter, but she also didn't want to forgive her ex-husband. She appreciated that Amy was handling things her own way. When Jennifer opened the doorbell, Mike Anderson and Lisa Anderson were standing there grinning. Lisa, a close friend and co-worker at the real estate firm, had helped Jennifer through tough times. "I appreciate you coming." Jennifer gave them each a hug. "Beautiful house." Glancing around the entry hall, Lisa shouted. "Your desires are all over it. Areas that aren't completely settled still exist." Jennifer chuckled shamefully as they were in the backyard getting the BBQ ready. Once more the doorbell rang. "I'll get it." After saying that, Jennifer made her way to the front entrance. She found David Clark standing there when she opened the door. He taught English in a middle school. The two had recently been progressively growing closer after meeting at a nearby support group. "I apologize for being late." David held out a bunch of flowers. "On the way, I got lost. Everything is all right. We have only just begun." In the backyard, Jennifer grinned as she took the flowers. Amy waved to David as she saw him. At first, their connection had been difficult, but Amy's heart had gradually warmed up to David's genuineness and kindness. "Let's toast now that everyone is present." Lisa lifted her glass to fresh starts and a new house. To fresh starts. Everybody's glasses clinked. Following dinner, Amy and her friends went to attend a movie while the grown-ups remained to chat on the patio while sipping wine beneath the starry night sky. Jennifer sensed that her life was taking an unexpected turn. She murmured softly, "I never would have imagined. I didn't know what was going to happen as we left the hospital that day. But Lisa claimed you were strong for you and Amy." Jennifer said, gazing up into the glittering sky. "I had no choice. I had to get on with my life." David helped Jennifer tidy up after her guests had departed. He said, "I had a great time today." "I'm glad to see you and Amy embarking on this new chapter in your lives." "Thank you," Jennifer grinned. "It has really helped to have you at my side," David remarked. "I faced my own past, too." A few years prior, he had personally witnessed his wife's infidelity. "But I always thought that one day I would discover a new kind of bliss." For a moment, the two stood motionless next to one another, gazing up at the night sky. Jennifer remarked softly, "A true family isn't just about blood ties. It is characterized by integrity, trust, and a determination to always be there for one another." Amy grinned as she got home and noticed her mother and David conversing softly on the porch. Although it takes time for broken hearts to mend, mother and daughter had started to look to the future and pursue a different course in life. The rose Jennifer had just planted swung in the wind outside the window. It represented a fresh start rather than recollections of the past.